Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Airtime with Jordan. I'm your host, Jordan Fasso, and today we are going through the Geelong Cats Footy Club and we're going to do their season preview for 2025. And again, anyone who hasn't listened to these before, we're going to go through in order of doing a bit of a review of their year last year, go through the ins and outs over the off-season for those teams, give my expectations, just some things to keep an eye on for the team coming into the year. Go through some of the players to watch that I'll be keeping a keen eye on as the season progresses, and then finish off with just giving my projections for the year, so their power ranking and also where I think they're going to end up on the ladder based on the fixtures. So that being said, let's get into the Cats. 15-8 on the year last year, third on the ladder they ended up. Another pretty successful year for the Cats, to be honest, and really they are just the benchmark of consistency across the competition where, they contend year in and year out. They made the right call not to play Tom Hawkins in that prelim despite them losing to Brisbane in the end, and I think, you got to live with that decision. I think he missed too much footy for the year, and obviously coming to the end of his career, great career down at Geelong, and you've got to give Shannon Neal the go there in that scenario. He provided a bit of value for them throughout the year, and yeah, kudos to them for not forcing it based on his stature at the club with regards to Tom Hawkins, and they just generally work through problems really well, and I think that's a great example of that's a great example of it, but also a great example of that was their coaching last year. There was a bit of cat and mouse being played with Tom Stewart, teams tagging him getting frustrated, and they solved that within a matter of weeks. And being able to figure out that mid-season when teams were tagging him, and also in the same breath sort of finding out that he is absolutely a capable midfielder if they need to deploy him in there is an important lever that the Cats found that they can pull. It sort of eliminated the possibility of like a tag really working against Tom Stewart. And I think going into 2025, they're even more prepared than they were in 2024. And once again, I'm expecting them to be contenders at the end of the year. And yeah, let's get into the ins and outs for their team. And coming into the team, the absolute headliner is Bailey Smith, of course, coming across from the Doggies. Was a dog, now a cat, so make of that what you will. And Lennox Hoffman that's a good name. He's come into the team as well. Killian Burke. Apologies, the Geelong ins are absolutely killing me in terms of my pronunciations here. So Xavier Ivisic, Nathan Matafai Forbes is another one. That's a good one. Jack Martin. Thank you very much, Jack Martin, for saving me there. Jacob Mollier, Joe Pike, Jay Polkinghorn, and Patrick Retschko. So they're all the ins. Made it through them. The outs are a little bit easier. A fair few to note. Starting with Phoenix Foster, Joe Furphy, Mitch Hardy, Tom Hawkins, of course, retiring. Emerson Jecker, ex-Hawk, shout out to him. Oscar Murdoch, Brandon Parfitt, Gary Rowan was delisted and not picked up as well, so another one to note. Zach Tui, of course, retired, and James Willis too. So, a lot about Bailey Smith coming into the team in the off-season, obviously, but I'll probably touch on him a bit more in the expectations section, as I think that he's going to have a fairly big influence on this team and what he can provide. So I'll touch on him in a minute, but I think the other notable sort of inclusion there is Jack Martin, of course. I think everyone's probably expecting Geelong to perform their magic on him, and he'll all of a sudden become an all-Australian caliber player. And I, for one, I don't know if everyone's actually expecting that or not, but I feel like there might be that general sentiment underlying in the media. But I'm pretty skeptical, even if he plays a few good games throughout the year. I just think, it's definitely worth the roll of the dice anyway, but to expect that he plays any meaningful role in this team is pretty unlikely. I wouldn't get ahead of myself if I was a fan of the Cats getting Jack Martin. I think that he was delisted for a reason, and in the last 5 years he's played 3, 13, 12, 11 and 15 games respectively in those years, and 15 being the high watermark in that regard, and that was 5 years ago. Expecting anything more than that for a guy who is age 30 is probably going to be a stretch in my opinion, especially considering he's always injured. So yeah, I think although he's obviously a pretty big name relatively big name in terms of ins. He was delisted for a reason, and I don't think that he's going to necessarily have any influence. But let's get into the expectations for the Geelong, starting with Bailey Smith. He's the Cotton On ambassador has coincidentally found his way down to Geelong, where the headquarters is down there, and make of that what you will. But it's been a while. As for on field, it's been a while since we've seen him play, and but at his best, everyone sort of knows what he is. He's a gut running mid. He's a winger as well. I think the intention is for him to play a bit more in the centre, but I think they'll probably ease him into that a little bit with his natural role, sort of having been on the wing in recent years, and obviously he has the potential to hit the scoreboard at times as well. And I think his kicking and disposal efficiency has never really been a big part of his game, and I don't really expect that to be any better, especially with the year off and a potentially increased role in the centre of the mid, as a centre mid. So, I'm big on sort of people being efficient if they're in those sort of roles, and not always possible because you're in traffic all the time. But I don't think he's ever shown that to be a big part of his game, and that's fine. He has incredible physical attributes that do the talking for him. He's he looks pretty massive. He looks fit this year as well. So I think leaning into that and potentially becoming a better clearance player is what he's going to provide Geelong inside. And I think that's probably what the Cats have in mind as well, once they sort of acclimatise him to their game style and stuff. And I think in ways for Cats fans, like, he has a similar game style to Dangerfield, which can sort of excite them. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be a Brownlow medalist or necessarily a captain of the club, but and it definitely hasn't been exposed to playing in the centre quite as much as Dangerfield probably had at the start of his own career. But I think that the Cats are definitely going to put him in there, and I think that burst of speed and power that that if he's still got it, I'm running with the assumption that he does, that he has that breakaway speed inside, and definitely. In that way, it's very similar to Dangerfield with that breakaway speed and just being a bit more of a physical player rather than a pure skill one. But the Cats midfield has been one of the best stoppage teams already. When we're talking about last year, anyway, they were at the top in all metrics in terms of stoppages, and they just have this way of squeezing as much juice or talent out of their players as possible, and to be one of the best stoppage teams with a group that consisted of very old Patrick Dangerfield, Max Holmes as well, Tom Atkins is a very underrated player, and Tanner Bruin, at times Jack Bowes as well, is it's a real credit to the coaching group to get that level of stoppage efficiency out of that group. I think obviously Dangerfield is a big part of that, Tom Atkins is too, but I think adding Smith to that group is going to be pretty exciting, because all of a sudden you have running power through Bailey Smith, Dangerfield, Max Holmes as well. A lot of guys that can really break open packs and will break away from packs as well. And I think that what it does as well is that if I don't know how much Bailey Smith is going to play at the start of the year. It sounds like they're easing him into it, but I think that what the plan will be is that having him and Max Holmes being able to do a lot of the heavy lifting throughout the year might allow them to rest Dangerfield a little bit and, sort of manage him as the season progresses, and then sort of unleash him come finals time the way that they have the last couple of years, or the last year anyway. So, I think if Bailey Smith's able to get back to his best, it's just really going to vault this Geelong's midfield into being one of the best in the competition. They were all already very good, and if not one of the top, on paper, not on paper in terms of names necessarily, but on paper in terms of statistical profile, they were a great midfield last year, and he's just going to be a great addition to the team, and he can play forward at times as well, which is, a nice piece of versatility for Chris Scott. And I talked about, obviously talking about Bailey Smith a fair bit off the top here and how that's going to help the mids. But this team is absolutely still stacked with talent everywhere else. Their backline is as formidable as ever. They're super versatile and like switchable as well. I think, you got Tom Stewart, Jake Kolodjasny, Mark Blitzarves, who's just the ultimate utility, Jack Henry as well. Keen to touch on him in the players to watch section, but my boy Connor O'Sullivan as well. I'm pretty excited to see what he can provide for them down back as well this year. They've got great wingers in Ollie Dempsey, who broke out last year, of course, and Max Holmes too, if he does play out there, we know how good he is on the wing. So, they've got options everywhere, talent everywhere. Their small forward group is just as good as it gets, really. Sean Manor had an awesome final series last year. Tyson Stengel, of course, is an All-Australian. A little bit of a down year last year as well, but, I think that everyone still respects Tyson Stengel as a player. It's not like people are not going to game plan for him or anything. Graham Myers, another one who's just at the absolute top of his game in terms of being a small forward in the competition. And then you have the upside of Ollie Henry as well. If he's able to produce and like, that's another person who can, is capable of kicking 2, 3, 4 goals in a game at times. And they have a lot of guys who can turn games, I think. And then that's before I even get to Shannon Neal, of course, who had a great year last year as sort of a stand-in for Tom Hawkins and had that experience. They gave him full trust to play in that final when I guess they could have made the call, but they lent on him. And I'm a fan of what he brought last year and keen to see how he's developed over the summer. And talking about this forward line, and that's even before I even get to Jeremy Cameron, who, in my opinion, still has the highest peak in the league at the minute. And by that I mean I still think that nobody else in the league, nobody in the league's best really compares to him. He's going into his age 32 year. He turns 32 in April, and there's possibly a chance that it gets a bit less consistent. But if there is anything we know about Geelong, is that they're going to find a way to get the best out of their guys. And if they manage him a little bit this year, then I wouldn't be super surprised. I think they're a team that can definitely win from outside of the top 4 as well. If it came down to it, if it means that they manage him in Dangerfield a little bit and get them absolutely firing for finals time, then so be it, I think. Yeah, he is that special. I think he's genuinely the only player in the league who can win a game by himself at this point. As far as I'd have to probably think about that, but just off the top of my head, there's not many that can, and he's probably the only one at the moment that can truly do it in the same way that Buddy Franklin used to do it as well. And if he still has that capability, which I expect he will, then this team will absolutely be contenders in the finals again. They have a pretty good formula for getting there. They have the best home ground advantage in the league, in my opinion, with, of course, the dimensions of that ground, which, up for debate, but you've got to play it as it is. Not every ground's the same, and there's 40,000 people odd that can now pack into GMHBA as well, so that end is closed off, and you've got that many Cats fans just on top of you these days. And they're always just so consistent and seem to find a way. And I'm talking myself into them pretty a big time here. And trust me, it's not easy when you are a Hawthorn fan as I am. So And just a side note, I've talked about Jezza and the Cats a little bit, but it's how paradoxical it is for me as a Hawks fan to also have probably my favourite player in the league, and Jeremy Cameron, play for Geelong. It can be painful at times. I'm very torn between love and hate there, but I think that as I said, I'm just a big fan of this Geelong team, and the additions that they've made with Bailey Smith are going to hold them in good stead. And I just trust them. They've got one of the best coaches in the game, of course, as well, in Chris Scott, and year in year out they're going to be competitive, and there's no reason for me to think that they won't be again this year. And that sort of leads me to the players to watch for this segment and for this team with Geelong. And I'm going to start with Mitch Nevitt as well. I liked what I saw from him in the pre-season. He's a big mid who loves playing the contest, and he seems ready to play a consistent role in the team, and he could be a part of that brigade that sort of ushers Dangerfield into the season. I don't think they necessarily need to put all the miles on Dangerfield early, and I think they're very conscious of that, as I said. So Mitch Nevitt is one that just looks ready. He's just a massive dude, and I think he's gonna provide something for them early in the season. Another player to watch is Lawson Humphries. Just unbelievable by foot in his first year, and just generally pretty keen to see where he takes his footy this year. I think that he sort of had the advantage of the old adage of you can only sneak up on people once. So it'll be keen to see if teams game plan for him and what degree they do. So just keen to see how he goes this year. Another one, Sam de Koning, of course, SDK. Where will he play? So maybe we in the media me, as if I'm actually considered part of the media. But anyway, maybe, I think people generally sort of fixate on too much, fixate on where he plays a bit too much, instead of realising that, the luxury it is to be able to have him play at fullback in a really good way, at a high level, I guess, or be able to play him in the ruck. And that, as I said, that is just a luxury to have him do that, and also have Blitzarves as well, who's, as I said, the ultimate swingman to be able to do that, both in the same team. He showed, like Stan Koenig showed, that at his best he's capable of being like a near All-Australian sort of quality defender, and if he's able to recapture that while being able to play full games as the number one ruck as well, then what a luxury. Like, they've still got Reece Stanley, of course, who can play games as well where required, but to be able to mix and match him, Blitzar, Sam Koenig through the ruck is just a good sort of mix to be able to play through there. And then the last guy that I want to touch on is Connor O'Sullivan. I really wanted him in his draft year to end up at the Hawks, but of course he went to Geelong. That's just the way things happen sometimes, isn't it? And I just think that he seems like the type of key defender that they're going to build the next generation of their backline around. I just hope that he is able to find some minutes this year in the team, because he's going to no doubt be to complement the versatile backline that they already have down there. So I think, he's another one to watch for me. I think they rate him pretty highly, and I'd be keeping an eye on Connor O'Sullivan coming into the year. As for my actual projections, as you can probably tell through what I've been saying, I'm pretty high on the Cats this year. I've got them finishing up in a similar spot as they did last year. So I've got them ranked 4th in my power rankings for the year, and then after going through the fixture, they've actually jumped up a spot, and I think they're going to end up 3rd on the ladder this year. So that being said, that's all I really have on the Cats, and as I said, you can probably tell I'm pretty high on them. They've still got talent everywhere on the ground, and have plenty of guys that are going to be able to develop, and I think as the season goes on, they're going to get stronger and stronger as they build chemistry. That new midfield with the addition of Bailey Smith, and just the general continuity that the team has is pretty crazy. So keen to see how it unfolds for them, and hopefully they don't beat the Hawks. So there you go. Alright, catch you guys.